Live from our 7 Tasmania studios, your nightly news with Joe Palmer begins now.
Good evening, everyone. There may be a circuit breaker for Tasmania's health crisis tonight, with a new deal finally struck with the current operators of the Hobart Private Hospital. The government has scored concessions with longer emergency department opening hours, but there are fears this doesn't go far enough to tackle the state's chronic hospital overcrowding.
A fresh start. The Health Minister today finally announcing the Hobart Private Hospital's future operator. Healthscope revealed to be renewing its lease for at least 10 years, with the current 20-year deal set to expire in December.
What we have negotiated means that we're going to see a greater return to the state of Tasmania, which will be able to invest in health. We're going to see more integrated services. We're going to see capital invested in this site.
As part of the negotiations, Healthscope has agreed to permanently open its emergency department 24/7. But while it's committed to recruiting more staff, they won't specifically be for the ED, despite its expected growth.
We have enough staff in our emergency department now. It's recruiting to the wards to make sure we've got plenty of staff to admit patients.
It's promising to better collaborate with the struggling Royal Hobart Hospital in an attempt to alleviate chronic overcrowding.
We'll be able to service those Tasmanians that have private health cover, and in doing so we're taking pressure off the public system, so we'll be able to improve patient flow and get better outcomes for Tasmanians.
We'll need to understand the detail before we welcome the announcement. There does indeed need to be better collaboration across the health system between private and public providers.
It remains unclear how long the new agreement will last, with exact details still being finalised. Michelle Wisby, 7 Tasmania News.
Leaked documents have revealed Risdon Prison is understaffed and over capacity. With shortages so severe, inmates were forced into a 2-day lockdown. Advocates have pleaded for additional resourcing, but the government says it's already recruiting more officers.
Tensions at Risdon Prison have flared in dramatic fashion in the past. This, the end of an incident 2 years ago. Prisoner advocates say tensions are threatening to boil over again, with conditions at the facility worsening.
They can't get access to medical appointments, to rehabilitation, education. It's effectively warehousing people in conditions which are akin to solitary confinement.
Leaked documents from the Justice Department reveal large sections of the prison were in lockdown for hours over the weekend due to staff shortages.
I think this really does affect prisoners very badly, and we get a lot of complaints about lockdowns, particularly about the fact that people, for example, miss out on medical appointments.
But it's also important to remember that lockdowns are an operational tool that needs to be used from time to time, and prison is not a holiday.
The state government says it's recruiting more correctional officers and progressing plans for an extra 400 beds in the prison service. This capacity in need, with the Risdon Prison Complex at 103% capacity.
What we see out there, it's bad for correctional officers, it's bad for inmates, and it's bad for the community. It's putting all of us at risk, and it needs to stop.
Ebony Ablett, 7 Tasmania News.
Canberra has its sights set on overriding Tasmania's Anti-Discrimination Act, with the federal government revealing draft laws to protect religious freedoms. To explain the proposed changes, our state political reporter Michelle Wisby joins us. Michelle, good evening. What part of Tasmanian law would be targeted?
Joe, it's the section that bans specific type of discrimination based on a person's sexual orientation, gender, marital status, race and age. Tasmanian laws say you're not allowed to offend, humiliate, insult or ridicule based on those attributes. But this draft bill put forward by the federal government would get around that if it's a statement of religious belief. There are still protections against harassment, vilification and inciting violence. But Tasmanian LGBTI advocates say they're shocked by the move.
Tasmania's anti-discrimination laws have gone a long way to fostering a more inclusive society, and this bill overrides that.
Meanwhile, Hobart's Catholic Archbishop Julian Porteous said he's encouraged by the draft bill, saying it's a positive step forward. Tasmania's Attorney General Elise Archer said she's giving careful consideration to the draft and how it interacts with our state law. Joe, the federal government says the laws are out for consultation and they'll protect against religious discrimination but won't give a licence to discriminate against other people.
Okay, thanks very much for that update. Michelle Wisby joining us there. The future of Tasmania's recycling remains a mystery as councils in the Greater Hobart area continue to cope with the loss of one of their major processors. Councils say they're working to reduce a growing stockpile of recycling at SKM's Derwent Park facility after the mainland branch of the company collapsed earlier this month. Work is now underway to reduce the pile and ensure the future sustainability of the site.
Any given day of the week you will see material stored on site. There is more than usual though as a result of the issues that SKM have been facing. So we are working actively with Quarter Method to reduce that.
Councils are encouraging residents to keep up their usual recycling practices as they work through the concerns. A juicy situation has unfolded on the northwest coast as police investigate a spate of fruit tree thefts. A large quantity of citrus trees has been stolen from the Riverview Nursery in Don after the offender gained access to the garden centre whilst it was closed on 2 occasions earlier this month. The same person is believed to have also stolen fruit trees from the Big Pot Nursery in Melrose on Friday. Police are urging anyone with information to contact Crime Stoppers. A group of community members in the state's northwest is pushing to stop the closure of rehabilitation beds at the regional hospital. Concerns have been raised over those needing to travel further to access services, but the Health Minister says the region is being cared for.
Petitioning outside the Northwest Regional Hospital to save 8 rehabilitation beds closed by the state government.
We have high incidences of chronic disease and we have highly dispersed populations in northwest Tasmania, and so it's absolutely critical that our health system is equitable for all people that live right across our region.
12 beds currently operate at the Mersey Community Hospital in Latrobe.
Where do they go now? They've got a further half an hour to travel. In the case of, say, Queenstown people, they've got to get off one bus and on another bus. I'd hate to be on walking sticks or a walker and have to do that trip.
And it's a situation local advocate Chris Whiteley knows all too well.
And after having had a husband who was terminally sick and lots of times we had to have trips backwards and forwards, I know how hard it is to get sick people in and out of cars.
The group is taking the petition to communities across the coast, but the Health Minister says the service in Latrobe is working effectively for the region.
There are a number of patients that have been seen and cared for there that would have otherwise been sent to Hobart or Launceston. And so what we are seeing is more people from the northwest coast being able to be cared from the northwest coast.
Anita Dow is aiming to table the petition in Parliament by October. Ruby Kamain, 7 Tasmania News.
The revolving door of Tasmanian sporting CEOs continues, with the head of Cricket Tasmania, Nick Cummins, set to depart to join Cricket Victoria. But after 3 years in the role, Cummins is confident he's leaving the organisation in a far better state than when he arrived.
He's the latest CEO to depart the Tasmanian sporting landscape, but Cummins says the decision is purely personal.
As a family, we've been on the road for 6 years now in Sydney and then Tasmania, and with some developments with family back in Melbourne, the pull home was pretty strong.
Commencing in the role at the start of 2017, Cummins quickly set about overhauling the organisation from the ground up in the hopes of bringing it into line with the powerhouse cricketing states, crediting his biggest achievement as playing a part in the revamp of the women's program.
We're in a position now where players who play for Australia or have represented Australia are seeking to come to Tasmania, and I think success will follow very shortly.
He's now set to join the opposition, taking up the role of Commercial and Marketing General Manager at Cricket Victoria, but says he'll be following the progress of Tasmania's program closely.
We've done all of the hard yards. It's probably a bit like renovating a house and then moving out shortly after the renovation's finished, not having a chance to enjoy all of the fruits of your labour.
Set to officially vacate the role towards the end of the year, Cummins hopes to assist Cricket Tasmania in finding a worthy replacement in the coming months, with plans to have a new CEO in place by the end of the year. Tom Cooper, 7 Tasmanian News.
Tasmania's Men's Shed Association celebrated its 10th birthday today. Members from around the state gathered in Longford to take part in the festivities.
Men smiling and laughing ahead of official birthday celebrations at Woolmer's estate in Longford. The party representing the positive impacts of Tasmania's Men's Shed, providing a safe space for men from all walks of life to make new friends and find new hobbies.
It certainly made their lives better, and their mental health seems to improve.
It keeps you going, keeps you busy, keeps you thinking about how I used to be when I was full-time working.
Men suffering with medical ailments, social isolation and mental health issues are able to receive support and have a cup of coffee with like-minded people or tackle a woodwork project at one of the state's 61 men's sheds. Government funding providing a much-needed boost to the association.
We get funding from the current government, but we've also had support from the opposition and all the other people. They all see the benefits to men's health and to community's health.
And as the Men's Shed hits its 10th year, what can we expect over the next decade?
We'd like to see that the sheds are sustainable. We'd like to see younger people coming into the sheds and the sheds working with younger people.
Elizabeth O'Neill, 7 Tasmania News.
To the TSL, and it'll be a case of deja vu at Windsor Park this weekend when the Blues and Tigers battle it out for the second weekend in a row. But there's more on the line this time around, with the loser eliminated from the final series. The Tigers hadn't gotten anywhere near the Blues on the Windsor Park scoreboard before last weekend, when they fell short by just 7 points.
It's that confidence of a good performance on that ground and knowing all we need to find is one more goal. So we've been looking around for it this week.
Heading into the club's first ever TSL final series, the buzz has been building at the Twin Ovals.
Consequences are so much higher, so you play your cards a little bit closer to your chest. There's a couple of structural things that we might do a little bit differently.
The Tigers welcome back 4 of their best for the clash in Kieran Lovell, Marcus Davies, Lockie Godomski and Ollie Burrows-Cheng. But the Blues will be bolstered by their own big-name inclusions in Fletcher Seymour, Jay Blackberry and Dylan Riley.
We're grateful that we've got a home final. It's our first time to have a home final in 11 years. It's Tim Bristow's 150th life membership game, so we've got plenty to play for.
And with the losers' year done and a showdown with either Glenorchy or Lauderdale awaiting the winner, both coaches are promising fireworks come 1 p.m. on Saturday.
11 wins for the home and away was probably far beyond our expectations of where we would get to. The group's been fantastic, and we're looking forward to see how far we can go in September.
Everyone's back on 0 points. It's a new season. Anyone can win it now. It's up for grabs.
Meantime, the Hobart Hurricanes have unveiled their latest signing, with Tasmanian off-spinner Jared Freeman joining the squad for their upcoming BBL 09 campaign. Freeman played 2 matches for the side at the back end of last season, taking his first wicket against the Adelaide Strikers.
It's good to get another opportunity to go around again. I've learned a few things since then, so to get another opportunity is really exciting for me.
The Hurricanes opened their account against the Sydney Sixers in Alice Springs on December 20.
Good evening. Ross dropped to -5 last night to record our overnight low. Campania the high today with 15. Hobart and Launceston 14 degrees. Burnie 12 and Devonport 11. A few light showers persisted over the west and far south, but mostly sunny elsewhere. Friendly Beaches and Ouse 14. St Helens and Grove 13. Strawn and Flinders Island 12. King Island 11 degrees. Now, here's the cloud that brought the drizzle to the west and far south of Tasmania. The rest of the state cloud free, but a little was spotted near Flinders Island. More of that low cloud over Victoria and southeast South Australia in the wake of the cold front. A surface trough has cloud over the WA coast. Mid-level cloud is over northeast New South Wales and southern Queensland. Tomorrow the high gradually moves east over Tasmania as the cold front reaches Western Australia and pushes over the Bight. The winds northwesterly at 5 to 15 knots, but tending westerly at 15 to 20 knots over the south. A further strengthening will occur over all waters later in the day. A strong wind warning exists for waters between Southeast Cape and Sandy Cape, And a road weather alert for icy conditions on most roads this evening. Hobart, a mostly sunny 16 degrees, 0 overnight for Huonville, a top of 16 as well, 16 the top 2 for Campania. 14 the high for Launceston after a morning frost, bit of fog about, 13 the top for Devonport and mostly sunny, early frost and fog for Georgetown, 13 the top for Burnie, partly cloudy for Strawn, 14 the high and Wynyard -1 to a top of 13. St Helens sunny and 15, 16 the top for Swansea, Port Arthur 2 overnight, 13 tomorrow. On Saturday, mainly fine apart from a light shower over the west in the afternoon. Showers over the west and north on Sunday with a westerly change in the winds. And on Monday, mostly fine with a shower over the west easing, but possibly developing later over the north. Showers and a late storm for Perth. Sunny weather for Adelaide and Melbourne, rain for Sydney and a shower or two over Brisbane. Partly cloudy at the moment, 9 in Hobart, 7 in Launceston, 7 right now in Devonport. And tonight's energy saving tip from the staff at Aurora Energy: use natural lighting instead of artificial when you can, and maybe a reading light rather than lighting up the whole room. That reminds me too, my bill was due 2 days ago, Joe. They won't worry if it's a few days late, will they?
Well, not with all the tips you're giving out. Thank you very much for that, Merv.